All right, welcome back to our usual Monday stream. Last Saturday was like mostly the romance stuff, but I wanted to discuss something that also gets on my nerves. So there's this thing that people do where it feels like they have to be opposed to like we talked about this a little bit before the anti-everything crew, but there really is like a pattern of thought, and there's different motives to it where if there is a consensus enough around something, um, you have to very blatantly and openly be opposed to that consensus, almost for reasons that aren't even grounded in anything besides I just like this thing that or I don't like this thing that other people do. Um, what's a good example? I mean, we could name some movies. Um, I'm gonna wait to see if anybody comes, and then we'll get further into this topic. I'm just kind of out of it with a lot of this stuff. Basically, I met this person like a week or two ago that I was talking to, and they said some weird stuff yesterday and the day before last, and I sent them something back where I was just like, I guess that's the difference between me and other people. Um, and they respond like they didn't say anything back, but on people's accounts it'll show that they saw what you wrote. It's almost as if they know that what they wrote um, turned me off or was like off-putting. I guess you could say. So that's somebody that I don't know if I'll speak to again. I'm so tired of a lot of the weird stuff people say on here. And I think that one of the things that happens is that when you're so used to just how to explain it. I always remember that when I was younger and on the internet, I would always try to get people to speak to me, on these different websites, sometimes on YouTube, sometimes on other sites, and how I think one of the effects of like feeling as though people have largely excluded you from a lot of these attempts at dialogues and conversations is that now you're very selective about who you talk to. And if groups of people are, like tiny groups of people that you talk to say weird stuff, you don't really, your patience for it is a lot smaller than it would have been 5 or 6 years ago. Because I do see myself as someone who values their time, and I don't need to speak to people that say weird stuff that they can't even explain. A good example of this would actually be during the last stream with the woman who, I asked if I could draw her, and then out of nowhere she said, "Oh yeah, just don't draw me naked or lewd or whatever." And it was really weird to me because everything I had drawn for this person um, was, tame. It's always something like I could put everything I've sent her on here, and I'd have no repercussions from YouTube because every last bit of it is just tasteful stuff. I drew a picture of myself one time of one of my relatives. Like I just I don't I really thought what she said was uncalled for, but I had a person on my stream say, well, women are used to being sexualized. Like, that's not the point. If you talk to somebody and they have given you no hints that they will do this to you, you are a very paranoid, weird person. Which is why I gave the example that if the situation were reversed, you wouldn't see anybody say, "Well, men feel this." No, you would see people say, "This is a weird thing for him to say to you. Why, if he doesn't believe this will happen, why would he state it?" Which is why during the last stream we also gave examples of how weird a lot of this stuff was. Just oh yeah, this person is not going to. No, I already gave the examples. Like I was like, oh, this person is going to take this woman on a date. Don't molest her. I'm not saying you would, but I just wanted to state it anyway. Just weird stuff. But just stuff like that, man. Because I feel as if even if you want to sit here and try to play, psychiatrist and talk about the history of women suffering and all that stuff, I believe a normal person or at least a person with some slight semblance of empathy could say, yeah, I can see where that would you wouldn't like having someone pretty much accuse you of planning to draw them naked when there's no reason for them to believe that based off of what you showed them before and the fact that you've never indicated any romantic interest in them. So it's just really irritating that just people always are there to be contrarians, to sit here and try to make you seem crazy for having a view that if it happened to them, they would want people to know, yeah, this is screwed up. But whatever, I'm probably gonna stop talking to her after this week or next week. Her and the other one that I mentioned during that stream. There's actually a third person. So the deal with her is that me and her spoke in this one server, and we were talking to each other. I don't want to say every day, but pretty much every day, and it was like it was a decent dialogue, right? And then all of a sudden, she breaks up with this guy that she's with, which whatever, and then starts ignoring me, and has been doing that for like the last week or so. Um, and initially, she said she just wanted to be alone, but she's, I'm kind of getting a little irritated because it's been going on for too long. That is one of my pet peeves when I know that someone that I spoke to is purposely ignoring me for like multiple days or weeks. That starts pissing me off. So I'm probably gonna get rid of her too. She got 7 more days to play that game and then it's over. So my tolerance level for people online just it's at its lowest it's ever been. Again, because I don't do this stuff to people. Like if I have someone I speak to and I enjoy talking to them, and then I don't see myself being weird like that. Oh, I just broke up with this woman, so other woman, I will not speak to you again. Like what the hell? Again, stuff like that is weird and it doesn't make any sense, and it's just another bizarre thing that chicks do. But you'll have somebody defend it somewhere. I mean, I guess if you want to talk about like pop culture stuff, I gave the example of how my best friend is the only person in real life that I've met who didn't like No Way Home, and it's the same guy that likes TASM too, which is. And I thought his reasonings for not liking it were very ridiculous. Um, I think he did a good job of just like articulating what, and you could say, oh well, this is someone that, like, I always give the example of how my mother, for example, doesn't like horror movies. She's not into superhero movies. If someone like that doesn't like this stuff, I'm not really going to go beyond the surface to figure out what ingredients they had, that didn't work for her, because nothing they make will work for her except for one movie that every single person of a certain ethnicity went to go see. Whatever. I don't even want to talk about that film. Um, but with him, it's like this is the same guy who nitpicked Man of Steel's ending, right? Like, it was very, I thought, very unfair to that movie, just cause, right? And I it was almost like he was going out of his way, because when you have people, even people, some people are saying they love it, some people are saying they like it, but like there's a general consensus that this is a good film, and you are the only person I know of anyway in real life, because I even get started on people online like and dislike everything. That's not even a worthy venture to even go on. But it's like I didn't understand him, and I tried to, and he just didn't do any job of articulating why he felt this way. It was the same thing with his like weird TASM love. Like I always give the example of how with a lot of these Spider-Man movies, the way it goes usually is that you either really like the original trilogy or you really like the new stuff. Like you either like Maguire or Holland. There's very few people who just, at least before No Way Home came out, that were talking about Garfield as being the best one or the one they liked more. Because just it was a series that got one more movie, and the second movie sucked so much that it got the whole thing canceled. Um, so with him, he's like, oh yeah, TASM is my favorite version of Spider-Man. I'm like, why? just because I don't know anybody in real life that, again, we're not talking about people online because they're all over the place, but I don't know anyone in real life that would say that other than him. And his reasoning was, oh, in the Tasma movies, things are serious and people die. Like that's his example of things being serious. And I said, well, I mean, in the original films, someone dies in each one of those. The first one, the carjacker, Uncle Ben, Green Goblin. The second one, Doc Ock and his wife. The third one, Harry and Venom. Like it was just, it was you get the idea that it's not so much the fact that someone says they like something more that bothers me. It's when you try to talk to them and their reasoning is very poor. Like it's almost like it's just like going out of its way to be different from yours. And I do have some people online that like to accuse me of not tolerating different opinions, but I always say this, um, when I have people come to my channel and they don't like the same movie as me, right? Because we had this discussion where one of my mods said that the only good MCU movie was Civil War, which I don't agree with at all. He didn't get banned, he didn't get demoted. Like it's just when people do a bad job of explaining why they like or dislike something, and it just seems like they're opposed or don't like something just for the hell of it. Yeah, I don't really see much interest in having a conversation with that person about that stuff. Like if you ask me why I don't like TASM 2, I could sit here right now and give you multiple reasons. I could say I think the story is very insane. You have a man who dies from a disease that his son gets, but his son, who, despite being 30 years younger than his father, believes he's going to die from it soon. So he enlists the help of the titular hero to get his blood. And how does he even know his blood is going to work on him? And why does he feel a rush to do this if this disease didn't kill his dad until he was, middle aged? So it was, just stuff like that. Um, it's not hard to, for me anyway, to explain why I don't like something. No, I'm so tired of people just they really do seem like they either have an opinion just to try and piss somebody off or to just to be opposed to stuff, like I hate doing that. I like to actually have, if I have a problem with something, be able to explain it. It's really funny too because we were dig deeper, we could figure out that a lot of these online reviewers, and not like the really big ones, like the ones that have a million subscribers, or whatever, but like the little like smaller group of guys. There's always something really funny about when they review like Marvel or DC stuff, just like some ongoing series, right? And they don't like movie after movie. They keep telling you it's bad, 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 bad. But guess what they do? They keep going out to watch it and giving them more money to make this stuff. Like I remember with the Transformers movies, you would have these like it was that was really the first series I saw where it was almost like the Twilight Zone, because every movie, I mean even the first one, right, would get people saying it was bad, a bunch of reviewers talking trash about it, but it would always make back what it cost, so they would keep making more of them. So it's like critics can sit here and trash this stuff all day long, but if people are going out to see it, what I mean, like I could have trashed Tasm too, but if it made $1 billion like Sony had hoped, it wouldn't have mattered. Of course, it didn't, so they decided to rebrand and have do a course correction. I really don't get him and his like love for that series. Like I don't know what he sees in it. Mm. I guess I should mention what that person said that got on my nerves. Should I say it? They said that they care like in horror movies, they care more about the killer than the protagonist, which I thought was really stupid because if usually in those, if someone's the villain, they're I mean, it's just like I just thought that was so ridiculous. Like most of these slashers are invincible, meaning that even if they die in the movie, they'll still come right back in the next one. So I don't see why I should have any investment in them. At least with the like a lot of people trash superhero movies, but at least with those, a lot of the villains when they die, that's it. They don't have like immortality to come back for 9 sequels. So I just thought she was really weird for saying that. Like I said, I just think that it's a side effect of barely speaking to people that much online for like a long time, just not really being able to put up with their stuff anymore. Swear every day there's some weird stuff that happens here. Give me a second. I gotta go get this thing. Man, people always order stuff online. I swear. You do have some people that will say that Superman's a bad character, right? Like, it's not that many. Well, how do I explain it? Generally, with comic book IPs, you can get people to like the character, but not like everything they're in. So, like, there are some people that like Batman that don't like the Burton movies, right? There are some people that like Batman that don't like the Nolan, a smaller fraction that don't like the Nolan movies. There are a lot of people that like Batman that hate Batman and Robin, right? But generally speaking, it's the IP that people still say is good, right? That there's like a consensus. This is a good character, just not always executed well. But you actually have people who say Superman's a bad character. They're like, oh, he's too invincible. I'm like, not really. That's the whole reason Kryptonite exists. Oh, he's boring. It's like, well, there's a lot of comics where he's making jokes and um, he has a really good comic relief with the staff from his job. So you know, I think a lot of it is just people don't read comics and they see like a show or a movie and they base their whole opinion of the character off of that, which I think is insane. I think Superman's one of the best fictional characters of all time and is the archetype for superheroes in general. Just like my best friend was saying that, oh, Dick Grayson shouldn't be so high up on the top 20 supers. Like he's the archetype for a sidekick. Most sidekicks are modeled after him, the original Robin. And he had a problem with Barbara Gordon being up high on. I said, dude, Batgirl, like was whatever, just female Batman. But as Oracle, she was one of the most prominent handicapped superheroes and was a role model for people that were disabled, that they could still be an asset and reliable in terms of their usage to others, in spite of their disability. It's just like it's like people don't even think when they have a problem with something. That's stuff I'm talking about. I remember I saw this one guy's video. He was like, "Oh, they're making a fourth Fantastic Four movie. They should stop. All the other ones were terrible." I'm like, I haven't seen the first two since I was a kid. I know they wanted to do a third one and it didn't work out, so they did the Van Four stick. But I would never tell them to give up on such a creative IP. Like there is a lot of good that can come from an actually well done Fantastic Four movie. Um, like you can give Doctor Doom an arc if you have a trilogy or however many you want to do. You got Super Scroll and just the scrolls in general. Um, Obviously Galactus and Silver Surfer as well. Like there's plenty of material they could pull out if they want to. And it's really sad that people just they see some stuff in other media that doesn't work out too well, and then they're like, all right, we'll never do this again. It was the same thing with Green Lantern. Like I thought the movie was bad, but the character I would love to see more movies with. Like I've said before, Green Lantern's mythos are very interesting, and they've only gotten more interesting with time because they've introduced all these other Lantern Corps that are symbolic of different emotions with various characters that are also, like I think very cool. Like I really like Larfleeze. That's the Orange Lantern. That he's the only one because their emotion is greed, so he won't let anybody else join his corps. He has all these rings on his hand. That could be great in live action. I don't know why they won't do it, but you get the point that it's so frustrating when you know that all of these IPs have source material that is good. Like they wouldn't have existed for as long as they have if they were bad. Okay, Master says the beauty of world building and storytelling is that there can be an infinite amount of iterations of the independent property. An example is Batman. I saw some insane person on Twitter saying Batman sucks or is a bad. And I was like, you must be out of your damn mind. I'm not even gonna read the rest of this. And Batman's one of the greatest fictional characters ever made. I'm not even like a big fan of DC, and I'll admit that. Why do you think he gets a movie every damn year? Like, I'm putting it like it is. You'll be lucky if any character that gets made in the next 30 years comes close to the pop culture relevance of Batman, where they're getting like multiple TV shows and you won't see nobody that Marvel or DC makes again at post the 60s comes anywhere close. Look at every Marvel property that gets like that before the MCU was getting multiple stuff made on it. Spider-Man, X-Men, even Fantastic Four, they had a couple of shows, some movies. All of that was, but those are older properties. All of them were like 30, 40 years old when they finally started getting that stuff. So it's just really funny that someone actually sits here and tries to pretend that it like just any old property can get something made about that. That didn't really happen until the MCU. Before that, very few of these superhero. Hell, we still don't have an actual Flash movie, and he's got way more stories than pretty much anyone at DC besides maybe like 5 members of the Justice League. And it's even more comedic. A lot of people are only interested in the Flash movie because it's got Keaton as Batman again, which is just more testament to the popularity of Batman versus, you know, them actually doing something new and some amazing fresh story. No, the movie's not called Flashpoint. It's just called Flash. But I think it's really goofy that the first film of this character ever is going to have. Let's recount two different Batmans: the Ben Affleck version, Michael Keaton version, the villains from Man of Steel, right? Zod and that girl. Who has one of the worst costumes in any comic book movie I have ever seen. I hate every time I look at that thing. I want to vomit. So yeah, it looks like it's gonna be an overstuffed movie, unfortunately. Like you've got multiple other heroes, multiple villains. I'm not looking. The only thing I'm excited for is seeing Keaton as Batman again. That's the big draw. Akatsuki Merchant said, "What's up?" Now, Akatsuki Merchant, you and I have talked about this before. I want you to sit down, pull out your pen and paper, your Cornell notes, and explain to me how any human being can say an IP, like any of these comic characters, are bad when most of these bastards don't even read comics. and base their entire opinion off of one movie or a show or whatever. It really drives me nuts. It's like I know all these people that not in real life, but on the internet. Like Superman is not a good character. How has he been around, able to keep a monthly comic for 80 years? Why was he the best-selling hero for decades? Like, what are they talking about? It's just like on the other stream, I had one of my subs mentioned that X-Men are somewhat forgotten. That was the way he phrased it. And I was like, no, they're not. Like, yeah, it's been what 2-3 years since we got an X-Men movie, but X-Men were at one point Marvel's best-selling comic besides Spider-Man. In fact, X-Men #1 by Chris Claremont and what was it, Jim Lee as the artist, is still the best-selling comic of all time with 7 million copies sold 30 years later. So I don't know how you can have the group that was the second best-selling comic for Marvel at one point, and to this day still has the best-selling comic of all time, uh, claim that they're somewhat forgotten. You get what I'm saying? That's just it really sucks that people feel like if you don't have a movie every year or every other year that no one talks about you, is just complete malarkey. It's because people like to draw conclusions about something and then find specific things to confirm that bias, no matter how uncharitable. Yeah, but they don't even do any research. Like when my best friend was saying, "Oh, I like the Tasman movies the most of any of this," which I'm sorry, I don't understand at all. But his reasoning was so weird. Well, in those movies, people die. It's like people died in all three of the ones that were made before that too. And he admits he hasn't seen any of them in years. So it's like you don't even watch the stuff that you diss. Like, it's not even about having a different opinion. It's about failing and utterly being unable to articulate why you have the different opinion. Like, imagine watching a movie series where the first three movies all have multiple people die in each one of them. And then you get to the fourth and fifth one. Oh, these are the best. Why? Oh, people die. Oh, well, they died in the first three as well. That's why I said it's weird. Like, what? I seriously don't know what he's. And he said he liked Tasm 2 more than the first one, which was so bad it killed 5 other movies. I was really sitting there just dazed and confused as to what he saw in this short-lived retread of this other better series. It's weird. I don't understand. Well, Sony understood. That's why with No Way Home, the villains they actually spent the most time with were ones from the Raimi trilogy. So I guess they know, what is well liked and what isn't, what worked and what didn't. Well, they love drawing conclusions about stuff. It's just really weird to me because it's like you sit here and you talk to these people. And also, Akatsuki Merchant, let me ask you something. If you're watching a horror movie, right, and the villain is someone who is nigh invulnerable, even if they die in that movie, they can be resurrected and come right back in the next one. Would you say that you care about the villain, this person who is immortal? That if they get any type of injury, they shrug it off. Would you say that that's who you're mostly invested in, like over a good protagonist who can actually die and there's like stakes with because they're not invincible? I just thought that what she said was so stupid, man. Where's that trash? I care more about the killer if I'm being honest. Yeah, I care more about the nigh vulnerable antagonist that even if he dies, they can just bring him right back. I was in a Discord server where this guy was like, "Oh, they should do a movie where what was it? Jason's like, yeah, it's him versus some other killer, and like we're worried about it. It's like, why would we be worried about him? He's died multiple times. They bring him right back in the next movie. Like, guys, once you kill a character off over and over, it's a parody. Like, I don't care about. I'm not worried for Superman when I read a comic because he's died before and come right back. But you know what? Even with him, as like mentioning that he's died repeatedly, and that like took away any me actually being worried, like, oh, they'll never do a Superman comic again. But even then, it's like that's still a character that's actually on the side of good and has flaws. Exactly. Akatsuki Merchant. Imagine if I did a horror series where for 5 movies you've got this killer who just kills people because he's evil, right? And this hero that's like trying to stop the killer from killing people, and also like trying to make sure that he defeats him so that people will live. You're going to tell me you care more about the psychotic bastard who is nigh invulnerable, who can't be killed, than the person who's actually trying to do the right thing and can be injured. If you want a character who's an untouchable god emperor who can't be killed, well, it's not even just that. It's like, you look at Infinity War, right? Thanos, even though he's the villain, is not invulnerable because you see him come close to losing multiple times. Especially when he gets to his planet and they're like trying to pull the glove off. He's someone that I could see a person caring about because he has redeeming qualities. What the hell is redeeming about someone who just wants to kill people because they're evil? And and why would you care about them if you know that even if they die, they can just come right back? I really looked at that message yesterday. I was like, what are you talking about, you nuts? Like, what investment am I supposed to have in someone who is a literal Mary Sue with no redeeming qualities, right? No, because they're the bad guy, and they're the bad guy who's just like their motive is literally I just don't like people, so I stick blade in them. And who is immortal, who even if they die, has died before and they come right back. Like what are you supposed to feel? Why would you be care more about them than the protagonist? I just was so baffled by that. That's why I said that's why I'm really just so tired of talking to fans of this stuff. They start saying weird stuff, like okay, you have a horror series, the killer's the most iconic, popular character, but if I'm actually watching the movie, no, I don't care about them because they've died multiple times, they've come back before, and they're doing something that I can't relate to. I can't relate to just wanting to kill people because you're evil. That's the bland archetype for a villain, kill and destroy for little to no reason. Like I said, you have plenty of movies and comics and shows with multi-layered, complex antagonists. Um, but horror movies are not them. They're not. They don't have that in place of anything that actually like give me any reason to care about the antagonist. Like they're literally just there to get the story going and to be something the heroes oppose. So yeah, I don't think I'll speak to her after that anymore. They always say some weird stuff, and she knew that what she said was because I didn't like curse her out or anything in my response message. I wrote like 2 sentences. Yeah, this is why I started moving away from anime. Too many Mary Sue villains who aren't interesting to have some right. But you understand where it's like, oh, Akatsuki Merchant, I'm rooting for Frieza. Why? Oh, because I'm just what's that stupid thing she said? I'm gonna paraphrase it. At the end of the day, I'm here to see Frieza do his thing. So I don't care if he kills everybody that's actually likable and more interesting than him. I'm just here to see Frieza do his thing, so I'm rooting for him. This psychotic person with no redeeming qualities whatsoever, who I don't care if they live or die because they've died multiple times and keep coming back. Like, what a joke. I'm just here to see Cell do his thing, so I don't care if he kills Gohan or Piccolo or Vegeta or Krillin or Goku, whatever. I'm always rooting for Cell. It's just so weird, man. Like I don't understand these people at all. Why would you care about a character who has no redeeming qualities and is invulnerable? To where even if they die in this movie, they come back, right? Like imagine if for like Akatsuki Merchant, you're a fan of you know what, Jedi? I'm not even gonna make that comparison because when Maul got chopped in half, we thought he was dead, and only with the Clone Wars that they revealed that he wasn't. So for years we thought he was gone. But with hell, I mean, like imagine watching the sequel trilogy, right? Because they bring back Palpatine. I'm just here to see Palpatine do his thing. Like who's rooting for the villain with no redeeming qualities whatsoever? Who's invulnerable? Who even if they die, they've been shown to come back anyway. Like what is there to latch on to? Again, with Thanos, um, characterization, right? He's doing something he doesn't want to do, but believes it has to be done to salvage the other half of civilization. He's not invulnerable, which is why he almost loses multiple times in Infinity War, and he, ends up getting killed in the next movie. So, even if that's a villain, that's still someone where people say, "Oh, I agree with him" or "I like him." It makes sense to me. Same thing with Vader. Not in not in the original movie because he's just like full evil in that, but in the when you get specifically to the sixth one, where it's like it is too late for me, son. Like at least again, more like characterization. What characterization is there to a person who just wants to kill people because they're evil? And why would you care about them? They're invulnerable. Like, you know what? At least when I was bringing up the Dragon Ball stuff, at least like if you're rooting for Goku, okay, well at least he's trying to do the right thing, right? He might be invulnerable because if he dies, he comes back anyway. But it still is like a person you root for because they're likable. What's likable about? Well, I don't like people, so let me just kill them just because nothing better to do. I told you, man, some of these chicks are just like some real creeps. Like I'm not even and again, it's not all of them. I have to keep stressing that, but if you give me a series, right, where you have protagonists who are likable, who are well characterized, well acted, then I will root for the protagonist. What else would you expect? I'm not going to root for the person who's evil, who's again invulnerable. Even if they die, they come right back next movie and who is like not even a character really. Like a lot of these slashers are played by different people every movie because they're not interesting characters to where you have to like actually have a talented actor play as them. They just have different guys put on a suit and then they're the same character as the last one. I just think her whole statement was so weird and just a contradiction, and it just reminds me of those chicks that are like attracted to serial killers. Really, I'm rooting for this person to murder a bunch of innocent people that did nothing to him. I also care more about him than those people, even though I know he's nigh invulnerable and can't die. And even if he does die, he comes right back to life. Just so weird, man. Again, I can't get behind stuff like that. Like again, if you want to talk about superhero movies with some of the antagonists they have, that have like Two Face in the Dark Knight, for example, um, clearly doing the wrong thing. You clearly want to see him stopped. But if someone said, "Oh, I'm rooting for him because he lost love of his life," he was someone that fought corruption, and it like, it scarred him, metaphorically and physically. Again, it would make sense to me. And also, he's not invulnerable because he ends up getting, killed in the movie. So that's still another time where, yeah, the character's a villain, but there's enough there to be sympathetic to. What is there to be sympathetic to with a slasher? A lot of writers nowadays really have a problem with writing compelling villains without being sympathetic to them. Right, but you understand where I'm giving examples of how, even like when some people say they root for the villain, at least it makes a little bit of sense because the villain has something redeeming about them. There is nothing redeeming about 99% of these slasher movie villains because all they do is decide I don't like people, so I just go out and kill them. And I'm also not someone you have to worry about because I've been killed before and I'm nigh invulnerable, so I can just come back to life after dying in the next movie. Dude, that thing she wrote really reminds me of like the type of stuff you see, like when chicks are like writing about, oh, this serial killer was so hot. That's what she reminds me of when she wrote that. And again, I'm not someone who's completely opposed to people rooting for the villain or liking the villain because I just gave multiple examples of actual compelling antagonists who have like layers and depth to them. I just think it's insane to have like a series where you have these protagonists that are well acted, who are likable, and you care more about the nigh invulnerable killer who can't die than the people he's going after for no reason. So that's my thing. If they did a slasher movie where, like, let's say somebody's dad died and the killer has like memorial for their dad, I don't know, out in like at their house or something. Some robbers break in the house and they desecrate the memorial, and then the killer's like, I will find those three and kill. At least that's sympathetic to me because that killer would have a motive. They'd have a rationale. It would be understandable. They'd be very angry over what happened to this memorial, even maybe not to that degree in real life, obviously. But you get the idea that that would be someone who is sympathetic by nature of having something done to him to entice him to go out and do this to this specific group of people. But with most of these slasher villains, it's I'm evil, so let me attack you with knife. And I just don't see how you end up rooting for someone like that over a likable protagonist who is, just a regular person that's not doing this evil stuff to people for no reason. It's weird to me. I just think most people say they root for the villain because they're infatuated with the characters, their design, behavior, personnel. But listen, Jedi. Darth Vader has a personality. Thanos has a personality. Every villain in all the Marvel movies, for the most part, has a personality. Some of these slasher villains don't even speak, and if they do talk, their personality is literally, "I am evil because I am evil, and I will kill you now." So what about their personality is appealing other than you're attracted to serial killers? You understand the differentiation I was making. That with a lot of antagonists, like the ones we mentioned before, when people say they root for them, it makes a little bit of sense because there's something about them that's redeeming. When you have a villain who a lot of times doesn't even talk, who just wants to kill people because they're evil, what is there to latch onto? And why would you care about them if you know that even if they die in this movie, they can come back right in the next one? So that's my point. That if you have a character who there's nothing for me to feel sympathetic toward them over, they barely have a personality at all other than I'm evil, then no, I don't feel anything for them. So yeah, I thought she was really crazy when she wrote that, and that's going to be a big reason as to why I probably won't be writing anything back to her. What I meant by my last comment is that you don't have to give the villain a sob story to justify their behavior. All you need is a good motive and a likable personality, right? Which is why I gave the example of Thanos, right? And it's like, okay, I could say the Joker is someone I like, from the Dark Knight, but he's not I don't think you would call him likable, because he goes out and kills random people and wants to see the world burn. Like it's just what is and again it's like that's an antagonist who's funny, who's memorable, right, who's like a good villain, but I would not say I'm rooting for the Joker over, no, because Batman is a good person who does something at his own expense, whether you want to say that it's because his parents died, whatever, but like is doing something that's good. So it's much easier for me to root for him because I'm not a crazy psychotic hoe that's horny, right? So if you do something that I can like get behind as far as logic is concerned, I will support that character. Well, it doesn't have to be a superhero film. I'm just saying that you can have like when if there is a villain with enough of a good intention based motive, I can understand people saying they root for them. But when you have a person who doesn't talk and whose whole personality is "I am evil, so I kill people," I don't understand um, getting like behind them. I don't. I think it's really weird, and I think a lot of people are just horny. So when they see like some big muscled up guy walking around with whether it's a machete or a knife or whatever, they say screw the story. I just want to see him do this thing. As she said, I'm at the end of the day, I'm just here to see him do his thing. That's why I said, man, I can't talk to people about this stuff. They start saying things that are just too weird to me. James, come on, just look it up. Why does he have to type it out? Just go on Wikipedia. Or go on WikiPiss, where they beg you for money every day while telling you they don't need you. Now, James, I want to ask you, because you saw some of the Friday the 13th. Would you say that you care more about the killer, who is a silent murderer that is just killing people to kill people, or the protagonist who are not doing anything wrong or bad, but have just caught the ire of someone who is deranged? And that's why I don't like horror stuff. Well, like I said, man, it's not even like the movie itself doesn't tell you to root for the killer, because you have all kind of characters usually throughout them who are saying this is bad, this is evil, this is wrong. It's these rabid, weird fans that say crap like that. So you shouldn't get mad. The film acknowledges this person is sick and deranged. I work on a story based on a digital world, and the villain is a virus. If an accident and ancient and mysterious entity that takes over the beings in the digital world and uses them as pawns of hunting. But James, I'm just saying that like I don't think that's like to dismiss the whole horror genre over like weird stuff that fans say online. I think is wrong. I was just saying that what that broad said really pissed me off because it was I don't know how you root for someone who is immortal and is evil with no redeeming qualities whatsoever over likable characters. I don't get it. I'm waiting for James to type some more stuff. I want to see what he says. He's been really silent ever since that what's that guy's name? Butt Muncher 75 made a video about him. Where he found out that we found that James was stealing his tracks from other people and dubbing his voice over them. No, ever since James got exposed, he's been making only one appearance a month. Jedi, you should have been here. That guy got a million views, and the only reason the video got taken down was because he used James's picture, and James was like, "Oh, this is my privacy complaint." But that video went viral, and he was exposing him. So we now know that James has been taking his tunes from other artists. All thanks to Butt Muncher 75. He really showed us. He pulled James' mask off. You know, it's so funny. The first time I met her, she left a comment on one of my videos, and it was like really, 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 really generic, like something you could see on any type. You know what I'm talking about. Where you make a video and you like put hours into it, or you actually like try to make it decent, and then someone's like, "Good video," just like very generic praise, right? Um, and I remember when I first saw her comment, I was like, "Man, this really is annoying. I should just go and delete this person." But I decided not to because I was like, "All right, maybe I can have a dialogue with this individual." So I messaged them on what's that stupid site on Instagram, right? And they don't say anything, and I respond back to her message, and she's like, "Oh, I thought you were spam." I don't know why spam would leave a comment to her specifically saying you left a comment on my video, but whatever. So it's funny because those were like two early warning signs that something is up with this chick, and then the third one that broke the camel's back was that trash that she wrote yesterday. I care more about the nigh invulnerable killer who can't be killed than people who actually can die and are not evil for no reason. No, I'm not dismissing because of the fans' genres because it's boring. I mean, there is no reason for the killer to kill innocent people. Okay, but you get what I'm saying about how it seems really insane to me that you would care more about a killer who cannot die and who is not good. Yeah, I saw Scream 4. I've seen all the Screams. I mean, we'll just have to agree to disagree. The point I was making was I think the new one is infinitely worse than the fourth one. Like I really wish the fourth one did better financially, and Wes Craven didn't die in what was that 2015? Because a lot of the plans that him and Williamson had for 5 and 6, I really would have liked to have seen. So that's a hard no for me, man. I really like Scream 4. 4 really is like a good. Oh, okay, yeah, yeah. I'm not a fan of what they did in that movie at all. It's just another stupid soft reboot, and I have like a love hate relationship with it at this point. But the fourth one was a really good commentary on that, on like soft reboots, because it was like, oh, we're bringing back the original 3, and one of them could die, and then you end up finding like it was a really like smart play on that. That's why I said after Wes Craven died, they probably should just ended the whole series because he was the only one that like knew how to make stuff interesting. Yeah, I really wish he had lived to do a fifth and sixth one because I would have preferred the little sentences I heard of chatter about what they want to do for 5 and 6 way over what we ended up getting this year, which was very predictable, very it had some decent performances, but it had one thing that surprised me in the whole movie. But other than that, I was just like, whatever. You took the original 3, you made them like second fiddle to this new. I don't want to get into a rant about it. But you could have a crazy broad like the one I spoke to yesterday who would say, "I'm rooting for Ghostface over the 3 protagonists that are all likable people who are much more interesting and complex than a random insane person that puts on a mask because they're evil." Like a lot of the antagonists in Scream actually have motives to kill people. And James, you saw the first Friday the 13th, right? I think you mentioned that you saw it when you were like it was a couple like last year, I think, when you said you had seen it. So you can correct me if I'm wrong. But I'll wait to see if you say that you saw it because there's another point I can make. It just really yeah, so like with Jason's mom, I've been on the record, she's a way more interesting character than Jason because she has a motive, right? She didn't want them to open up Crystal Lake again because her son died. She hates camp counselors because some camp counselors were banging while her son drowned. Like, even if you don't agree with her going to that extreme, which no normal person would, it is still infinitely more understandable than, well, I'm just evil to be evil, and I go and kill people. So I think she's probably the best character in that series just for that alone. It's really a shame that they got rid of her for her much more boring son, but whatever. But I'm just saying that she's another example of a slasher villain that actually has like some nuance and depth, instead of just I want to kill people because I'm evil. And hell, like the thing is, with one of the reasons I really like Scream is that like Craven recognized if you keep having these unlikable people that just go out and kill, you're just a generic slasher series, which is why he made the trio the main draw. Like you had a group of three people that you get attached to. You know, there's reason for the kill. Yeah, she has a motive that makes more sense than 90% of other slasher villains. I mean, yeah, it is the same thing in Scream too, but that came way later. Um, but even I mean, even in like what's a good example? Let me think of something. Even like a lot of the ones where the villain is just killing people just to kill people, you can churn out some good performances. Like I really like Corey Feldman, uh, you know, in Friday Part 4. So like that's why I said if you give me a likable protagonist, I can let it slide that the villain's motives are garbage. Like you look at the first TASM, right? Oh, Lizard wants to turn people into lizards. Really goofy at plot, but I thought Garfield did a good job as the protagonist, so I didn't really care that the villain was kind of meh. Pretty much, if you give me a likable protagonist, I can ignore just a villain who's like very bland and is just evil to be evil. Just like with the last Airbender, like Ozai's plot is I'm just evil, right? But you have protagonists who are likable, and even some villains that have some like depth to them. So you can put up with having a kind of just whatever type final boss. It's just hard for me to understand someone who says I root for a villain who is nigh invulnerable, who's died before and they always come back, and is just killing people because they're evil. I like that's why I said when she was typing that stuff, I started thinking about those chicks that are into serial killers because I can't like there's nothing for me to latch onto with a character that's like that. It doesn't make any sense to me. I'm gonna root for the person who wants to kill and hurt innocent people for no reason because I think they're hot. Probably is the real reason. I'm gonna root for the person. And it's like, what are you even rooting for? Like okay, so he kills the whole town. That's how the movie ends. And like, what? You care about him? Why would you care about someone who's immortal? Like, you know what? At least with just give you an example. A lot of superhero movies, the protagonist usually isn't immortal, right? They might be very hard to kill, but you see them like get cut up and scratched and all the rest of that. And in most of these series, the protagonist doesn't die repeatedly just to come back. Usually they die once or they die twice, and then that's it. And again, they're much more likable than the villain because they're actually trying to save people. No, she really like when I read that, I really started thinking, it was like, what in the world is wrong with you? Because and that's why I was saying that even the people that write these movies, like they know the main draw should be the heroes. Like those should be the people that you want to see win. Like with Scream, like I want to see the trio win because they're actually good people. Like I don't know what it's like to cheer for psychopaths. I'll just put it that way. Maybe it's because I'm not a horny little girl. But I don't like see a person that has no redeeming qualities and then go, oh yeah, this is so appealing. Let me support this. It's not even just that. It's like they die and they get like these villains. They die and get resurrected. So it means that like no matter what they do, if they want to bring them back, they can just bring them back. I don't know. Some people just like the kid. Dude, come on, don't do that. Like I just sat here and explained how there are multiple other antagonists in different movies. No, I do know that there are other antagonists in different movies that when people say they root for them, like it's not even just about liking them. You can like a villain but not want them to win. Like I like Joker in Dark Knight. I don't want him to kill every single person in that town besides Batman. And I'm not rooting for him to win. That's why I said that it's not just oh you root for you like this person. No, they want the villain to win. That's why they said they're rooting for them. It's like what the hell are you rooting for? Which is why I stopped watching anime like My Hero Academia. Well, I've never made a video about that show. I'm simply saying to you that there's a difference between liking an antagonist and liking them so much that you want them to succeed. I know I'm just saying for women, you were speaking about, I don't understand her mindset. Yeah, I thought she was really insane when she said that. And that's gonna be a big reason as to why I no longer speak to that person because I don't like crazy chicks. I guess that's just the best way to put it. When they start doing like saying and doing weird stuff, I start to dip. I pull on my coat and walk away. I don't sit there and put up with that trash. Saying Heath Ledger was phenomenal, but I don't want him to destroy it. But see, that's the difference. We're not talking about someone liking a villain. We're talking about someone wanting the villain to succeed when there's no reason to want them to succeed at all because what they're doing is awful for everybody other than themselves. Like there are a lot of people who try to make Killmonger out to be this great, amazing villain, right? Like this terrific antagonist, which I don't agree with. I think he's really overrated. But at least with him, there was something redeeming about a person who wants to assist other black people as to right the wrongs of previous generations of people that have done things to them. That's still much more nuanced and understandable as far as rooting for the villain than any of the stuff that these mostly slasher villains get, where they're just evil to be evil. Oh, Jedi, you reminded me of what she said. What was that stupid that trash? But at the end of the day, I'm here to see him do his thing. You shouldn't have put at the end of the day when you just ban that phrase. That needs to be deleted from our lexicon. Okay, seeing the balance between Joker and Batman is like watching an intense chess match. You get my point, man. It's just like I'm not someone who's opposed to people liking the villain, but when you start wanting them to succeed, when what they want to do is not good for anybody, that's where you draw the line. You're like, what is wrong with you? Well, they could have made him so much better if they just didn't have him say kill children. Like, why does he need to kill innocent kids who had like it's such a contradiction, and they're not even clever enough to call it out. You want to get back at people for mistreating innocent blacks and whatever. So part of that is you're going to go after innocent children who aren't responsible for what their parents did or their ancestors. You get how insane that is. Whatever. He's just another one-off Marvel movie villain that they introduce. They do some somewhat decent stuff with him and throw him away. That's all it is. We had that joke before that like out of all the Marvel villain like movie villains that actually matter, it's Green Goblin because even though he's only in the main villain of the first Raimi movie, he's still in the second and third has hallucinations, and then No Way Home. Doc Ock, Loki, Thanos, Winter Soldier to an extent. He's not. You can argue if he's the villain, whatever. And then Harry from the trilogy as well. Like outside of those like six, the rest of the Marvel villains across all. Oh, and Magneto as well from the X-Men movies. But outside of those seven, the rest you could just take and throw out because you're missing nothing. And Marvel knows their villains aren't that interesting. Why they get rid of them after one movie? I mean, hell, you Loki's way more of a what do you call it? Sympathetic or understandable villain than a lot of these slasher villains. Like he finds out that he's not really Asgardian and he's been lied to his whole life. Um, in in the first Thor, but it's like I wouldn't say I want him to succeed or I'm rooting for him because he wants to kill Thor, and Thor's a good person. You know, he's going to go and attack innocent people on Earth. Why would I root for that? Anytime a villain goes super dark, there should be an in-depth explanation on their past and how they came to be to that resolution. Example, yeah, you see all of them before they become evil usually. Yep, there you go. Especially Harry. That was two whole movies of setup. But I'm just saying that like you can look like I can give you examples of multiple villains where there is something in terms of their motive that makes sense to where you understand them. But like the point is what they're doing is still bad and you shouldn't root for them to succeed in doing that. I just thought she was insane. I'm just here to see him do his thing. Oh, thanks, Joel. I really appreciate it. I haven't seen you in a long time. You always disappear. I'd rather see you than crazy chicks that want to see people who just are evil with no motive at all other than being a villain. Want to see them succeed or are rooting for them. I still think that is insane. Now you look at Doc Ock from Spider-Man 2. It's like, yeah, sympathetic past. Okay, he's scientist, lost love of his life, right? But he still wants to blow up the city, even if he doesn't intentionally think he will blow it up. And he even recognizes how screwed up what he wanted was, which is why he ends up sacrificing himself to stop his own creation. He made his bed and lays in it. Way better villain than all these different slashers combined. Same thing with Green Goblin. The first one's like he loses his business, right? Um, the company that he started and he worked very hard for, and then he injects himself with this stuff to try and like be his own lab rat to save on costs, and then he ends up getting these powers and this alternate personality. And even with his new like deranged form, he still cares about his son, which is why he goes after Mary Jane after she Harry sees her like holding hands with Peter at the hospital. So there's plenty of antagonists that when people say they care about them, you know I would get it. But I still think most of them saying you're rooting for them over the hero is insane. Like you need some kind of mental help if you root for a person to kill innocent people just because they feel like it. That's the one thing that was really interesting about both of the goblins. Like you never see them go after particularly innocent people. Like we all the people that Norman kills as Goblin in that movie, or tries to kill, are either someone who directly did something to him or did something to his son. Because he could have killed Aunt May, but he just goes up and scares her, so, like just smashes through her wall and whatever. So he's not just going around, mustache twirling, killing random people like all these different slasher antagonists. That's what made Two Face in the Dark Knight really interesting. That he like everyone he goes after are people that are in Gordon's crime unit, and they all are just what do you call it? Someone who he thinks or knows it was involved with Rachel's death. So again, he's not mustache twirling. Like you don't just see him go up to a random person and shoot him. It's always someone who was involved in that he goes after. As a child, I really liked the story arc for Harry Osborn, seeing how he saw Spider-Man lay down his dying father, and him thinking that Spider-Man was the killer was a brilliant way to birth the villain. Right, and the fact that they actually build up to it from multiple movies. You almost never see that in anything like Marvel. That's why I said Marvel villains are very expendable. They get rid of them after one movie, usually. So that's why I said it still is something that pretty much none of these other Marvel film series besides the Thor movies have done. Because originally they were going to kill Loki off after Avengers, and they brought him back for Thor 2 and Thor 3. You actually some progression with the character, some development that again is very like even Thanos doesn't get that much development. He's just all of his stuff comes from Infinity War outside of those cameos. So Loki was the outlier. All the rest of them, one movie, then thrown right in the trash. Akatsuki Merchant says it's very telling of a person's morals when they root for the villain, when the whole of the villain is supposed to be the antithesis to what's good and just. And like I said, man, there are some villains where they want something where there's like with Magneto, for example. I love Magneto. I'm referring to the comic version, not the movie version, but they're pretty similar in a lot of ways. But I wouldn't say I'm rooting for him. Like he wants to kill innocent people because they're not mutants in a lot of instances to like show us what it's like to be you know marginalized. So it's even with him, it's like it's still way more sympathetic, but it still is not good. Like it still makes him a better multi-layered character than most antagonists in these horror movies, but he still is doing something that is not just. I seen the title and thought a perfect circle, beware the contrarian. Yeah, man, people just say weird stuff. Like I thought it was accepted that most people care about the protagonist more than the antagonist. Because the protagonist is actually doing something good and the villain is just there to be an obstacle for them. And a lot of these villains aren't even characters because of just stuff I explained earlier. They root for the villain. I was like, what the hell are you rooting for? You want him to murder the whole town? Like, what is good about that? That is insane. Whatever. Like, I'm not a psychiatrist, but I do think something is wrong with someone if they root for a person who has no redeeming qualities that wants to kill innocent people just cause. I think that's really insane. Where did James go? Did he just vanish off the face of the earth? Let me go look. James, are you still there or no? I didn't even see this part of your comment where you said, okay, I'm just saying for the woman you were speaking about, I don't understand her mindset, or just like you said, she gets off on it. I didn't even see that part. I think she is like when she watches it and she sees like whatever different slasher like killing innocent people. I told you a lot of these chicks are horny. They like and they get turned on by weird stuff too. Weird evil stuff. Oh, did you ask her why she's rude? No, I didn't. Like my last comment was, let me see where it is. Because I was gonna write a whole thing like I don't understand this mindset because blah 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 blah. I was like I'm not gonna change this Rod's mind. So I just said, you can be honest, which refers to the part where she said, I care more about the killer if I'm being honest. And I said, and I guess that's the difference between me and most horror fans. And then she saw my message yesterday, didn't respond. So that's that. But man, it's like she explained it, right? She at the end of the day, she's just here to see the killer do his thing. So I'm really fatigued with these people. Like I wrote the script for this one horror movie, or I'm still writing, and it's like it's about the protagonist of the previous film coping with what happened and like seeing how after a year of what happened, how it affects them, and then like that same person comes back again and like what they do different this time. And it's like if someone watches that and says they're rooting for the person who murdered all these innocent people last time to finish the job, I think something's wrong with you. Like these people literally did nothing to this man. He wants to kill them. A good antagonist makes the viewers ponder their motives, sympathize for them to a degree, and know that they're doing it, and know what they're doing is wrong. You can either go black and white with the villain or shades of gray. Right, but these ones are very black and white. It's person is evil because they're evil, and they kill people because they want to. Like that's why when we were talking about the, like the Raimi Spider-Man villains, and also Magneto, Loki, Thanos, whatever. We gave like reasons as to why we understand why someone would because we're not talking about someone liking them. You can like a villain that's not sympathetic, but to say you are rooting for this antagonist to get what they want, like you're rooting for this person in her example to kill innocent people that did nothing to him. You don't see what that makes you sound like a psychopath? That woman seems delusional as most. Man, I just saw like a little thing, like a new message on there. And okay, the fact of the matter is their hormones direct both their body and their minds, which leads to irrational behavior. Yeah, I don't see what's rational about like again, you like the villain, but know what they're doing is wrong, right? Um, I don't see what is rational about wanting a villain to kill innocent people, like rooting for them to kill innocent people, and caring more about someone who is immortal and cannot die over people that actually can. Dude, if this keeps going, I'm gonna end up making a whole video. But I'll be like, I'll just like be like, oh yeah, here's this person that said something insane, and then she got blocked. I really don't want to talk to people like that. I'm sorry. Like I put up with a lot of weird stuff that people say. Like I was bringing up how the one person was like, oh, the amazing movies are the best, which I think is insane. But again, I can tolerate a different opinion, just not like weird, irrational, psychological like stuff. Like I think it's really disturbing that you root for someone to kill innocent people. Like I just don't get it. And again, man, like a lot of people online are like, "Oh, I root for this." But like, they're saying that just to troll and be fun, and like, they're not even people I speak to anyway. But like, I don't know what value comes from talking to someone who says, "Oh yeah, that movie you're writing, yeah, with all those likable protagonists that you're giving characterization to and explore." Oh no, I care more about the person with no personality who is just evil to be evil, and I'm rooting for him to kill everybody. That's what I'd like. I'm just here at the end of the day to see him do his thing. To hell with good writing. To hell with interesting characters. Just like imagine how insane I was if they made a new I don't know. What's a good example, good property? New Batman movie, right? And they're like, oh, Joker's the villain. I'm like, well, they could have developed Batman and they could have, actually like made the cast do stuff that's interesting. But at the end of the day, I'm just here to see Joker do his thing and murder everybody. I look like a lunatic. Who like why is that the thing you care about? Like, you know what I'm saying, man? It's just like so stupid, man. It's weird. I'm willing to write a story where the main character is a super soldier and the villain is a military general who created super soldiers to fight off an invading force of monsters. Totally agree. I can't speak with someone who doesn't have a realistic grasp on any subject matter. But it's also extremely rude to me because it's like you write a script for a horror movie and then like this person is telling you they're not going to root for the protagonist that you have spent the whole movie developing, making decent people as far as like you know their motives, stuff that happened in the past, whatever. No, you're rooting for the random individual who is just evil to be evil. That's good because he has a motive. Is talking about is why would someone root for a serial killer just to kill someone for no reason? Yes, that's what I'm saying. I like it's not about rooting for the villain. It's about rooting for someone who is just doing something evil to do something evil. Which is why I gave the other examples of where there have been villains that are much more sympathetic and are have an end goal that is much easier for me to understand someone rooting for them with. Well, yeah, see that's what why her comment pissed me off so much because it's like, when you write a script and you put weeks or months of it of your life into it, and you put a lot of thought into it as well, and someone says, to hell with the protagonist that you're developing and actually doing all this character work with. I care more about the villain who's just evil to be evil than the people that you're actually supposed to support because they're not dicks. Like it's just that's why that was I think that's a big part of why that bothered me. It's like I'm writing the whole movie with the intent of having these likable people that you don't want to see the killer get, and you're gonna sit here and say you want the killer to get them anyway. So yeah, I thought that was really weird. And I think a lot of chicks like these horror series because they're horny and they want to they get turned on by that type of stuff. I get turned on by a good story. I'm just here to see him do his thing. It's like his thing is literally in every one of these. Like, oh look, random killer puts knife in person. Oh, I've never seen that before. That's a narrow mindset right there. I can't stand people like, yeah. I just was so just disturbed by that. If somebody said, just to go back to the Harry stuff, if someone said they were rooting for Harry in Spider-Man 3 to, kill Peter, um, that would still be kind of ridiculous to me because we know that Peter didn't actually kill his dad. Whatever. We saw what happened in the first movie, but again, let's say Harry succeeds in doing that. We don't have any reason to believe he's just now going to be this mustache twirling psychotic person because we only ever see him try to kill Peter. He doesn't. We don't see him robbing stores or banks or doing any of this other crazy stuff. Like everything he does is in pursuit of getting revenge on this one person. So it's still a lot more understandable to me for someone to root for him because he's not a villain in the classical sense of, oh, I'm going around hurting innocent people. We don't see him attack any innocent person. They drain the creativity out of imaginative individuals. But you get my point that that's a much more sympathetic, dare I say, likable antagonist than what you get with this other stuff. That's someone who, if they succeed, we have no reason to believe they're going to turn into this like corrupted monster that just like because he doesn't have the split personality his dad had. So that's still like that's why to me he's the most like understandable out of any of the five villains from that series. And he often looks on the protagonist as a traitor because protagonist turned against his army after he saw. Oh, okay, you're more of your script. I just think there's something really wrong about the idea that you have a movie where the villain is immortal, they can't die, they have no redeeming qualities, and some crazy broad, because she thinks the villain is hot, is rooting for him to win. Well, see, that's the main issue I have with the first Amazing. It's like, Lizard usually in the comics wants to get back at Spider-Man because he's trying to foil his plan or some of that extent. And it's like instead of having the final battle be him trying to get revenge on the hero that keeps stopping him, you have this like weird plot where he wants to turn the city into lizards. Like that's way goofier than anything we saw in the whole. People talk about, oh, the Raimi trilogy is so cheesy. That's way cheesier and goofier and weirder than anything we saw in that whole trilogy. So I just that like they really dropped the ball on that one in my opinion. But whatever. People will do what they want to do. Yeah, that's why I said that I don't understand because it's like it's just so frustrating how um you have with a lot of these different horror series, right? Some likable protagonist, and you're gonna tell me that you would trade them in for a weird villain that has like nothing redeeming at all about them. The only good thing about the TASM series is the swinging. I told you my best friend said that was his favorite movie. So I was like, what do you see in this? Like, I thought the first one's all, but like the first one is just a remake of the original film with a crappier villain. I mean, I'm serious. Every time I watch both of those, I'm like, who, like, what person on planet Earth thinks these are the best? That's why I said in real life, he's the only person I've seen say that. Everybody else either likes the original trilogy the most or the MCU stuff, Iron Boy. Like he's the only person I know in real life that said Tasman's his favorite. Like, and I'm like, what is there in those films? The first one, weird villain wants to turn a whole city into lizards for no reason. Um, Retelling the origin only 10 years after the first movie came out. Spider-Man giving his identity away to some girl that he knew for like 5 seconds. Like I don't get it. And then we don't even have to get started on the second one because I still would say the first one is decent. Like a weird Riddler from Batman Forever villain with Electro. Um, a damn what was it? Extremely rushed version of the Harry plot where it's like, yeah, remember last time they built up to that in 3 movies? Now let's all do it in one. I was like, what do you see in this? And then the most popular character of this that universally was like, even my people don't like Taz and Gwen, they kill her off in the most predictable, boring, bland way ever. Like, it was so weird. I'm like, what do people see in this? I really just sit there, and I even told him that I don't get it. No one is saying the couple part wasn't good. That in my criticisms there, I didn't say. Oh, and let's not forget. Hey, remember Rhino, that villain we've never seen in the movie before? Let's stick him in the last 2 seconds of this one for a third movie that never even gets made because this one sucks so much it gets the whole series killed. That movie killed 5 movies, and people say it's good. Yeah, in a weird armored suit. And then the ending doesn't even make sense because he has the boy like in the Spider-Man costume, like standing in front of him. For whatever reason, he just stands there and lets Spider-Man talk to the boy, like this is a Pokemon match. Like, attack him. No, the second one is garbage. One of the worst superhero movies ever made. That's why it killed the whole series. It's literally the Batman and Robin of the 2010s. The only good thing in the whole movie is the Peter and Gwen scenes, which still are worse than the first one because they have them break up every other second. So like I don't know if you like look, if you have a series where the first movie is all right, but it's got very noticeable problems like retelling the origin, a weird villain that wants to turn the whole city into lizards for no reason, um, him giving his identity away to some girl that he barely knew, like whatever. That's stuff I can get. But the second one is like what? There's almost not like turning that movie on is I would rather just like just sit in silence than play that. Like I'm never opposed to seeing something again, but there's like nothing to latch onto in that damn thing. Yeah, it makes no sense. It's like a Pokemon match. He's like, all right, well, once you finish your speech, we can fight. It's like the Cell games, which again still made more sense because it was a tournament. Like I couldn't believe it. I was like, what do you see in this series? The only thing that series did better than the original was its version of Flash, because its version of Flash I really like. They give him 4 scenes in the first one, where the first scene he's picking on the kid, then he's messing with Peter with like the basketball, then the third one he's trying to like console him over Uncle Ben's death. That was a really good version of Flash. But guess what? They're so stupid. They actually did with that really good version of Flash in the second movie. Didn't use him at all, except a deleted scene. I said before, Flash is one of the best supporting character, one of the most developed supporting characters of any superhero. Like if you read comics, he goes from being this like stereotypical bully to, when he goes to the army, like actually like developing as a person, where Peter even admits he's his best friend by the time they're in college together, and it admits that he can't be replaced by Harry. Like he has, like that's his. It's a really developed relationship, and it just sucks that we've never been able to see that in live action before. And even the MCU is screwing it up too, because they've had Flash in all 3 of those, and he gets like 1 scene or 2 scenes. They never develop it, so it's something that it looks like it'll just be exclusive to the comics forever. Right, but my point is, even one of the better things, they still like. Listen, no matter what way you try to slice it, they screwed up. They had this really good version of Flash, had 4 great scenes in the first movie, nothing to do in the second one. They have this really good version of Gwen that they kill off in the second movie, just I guess to match up with the comics. Even though the best thing that series had going for it was the dynamic between its 2 leads. So I said, I don't even the few times you give it praise, they still screw it up. So it's like I'm not, I'm not going to sit here and retroactively act like they knew what they were doing, because they didn't. And um, did any of you ever read the plot summaries that have been leaked out for TASM 3, since everybody keeps demanding that movie? The original TASM 3, Harry will make an appearance in the PS4. Yeah, sure. But the original ideas for TASM 3, and if you don't believe me, you can go look up the Dennis Leary interview from 2015, was to have Peter resurrect Gwen and her dad from the dead and go around resurrecting the people that had died. So we were going to see, what was it? The web slinging crypt keeper as the third. Like, who wants to see that? Like, why do you want to see spider zombies? I really would love to know. I really hope if there is a TASM 3, they write a whole new script, because that sounded like trash. I'm glad we didn't get that. I'm not against the third one, or I already said before, I would love if they just remade the set, like did the second one over, like have all alternate timelines. Again, if you don't believe me, you can go look it up. Like, yeah, I would prefer Spider-Man 4 over TASM 3, because I would have preferred seeing what was it, Vulture and Black Cat over. Oh yeah, people I cared about died in the first 2 movies. Let's go get the serum and resurrect them. No, the actual Marvel zombie story, I did think was interesting. It was very different and unique. Um, but I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about having a protagonist who is so weird in this timeline, this universe, right? That he has to bring back people that died with a serum. Oh, don't say I'll be honest. Does that mean you've been lying in all of your comments before now? This is your first time you've told the truth ever? I've always had an issue with resurrecting dead characters. I mean, they handle it like Naruto kind of did with the old Hokages, and when they did that with Itachi, it annoyed me. I don't like them resurrecting characters who did in the actual timelines we're watching, who died in the actual timelines we're watching. You guys in these grammatical errors screw me over. It'll mess with my head. Well, that's why I said in American comics, they've had multiple characters that were supposed to stay dead that they brought back. Like, first you had, Norman Osborn, right? For 20 years, he was in the ground. From when he killed Gwen all the way up to the Clone Saga, he was gone. It was just new goblins. And then they brought him back during the Clone Saga, and they have had him like be an Iron Patriot and all this other stuff. Then you had Jason Todd, who was hated so much as Robin that people voted for him to die, and he was gone for like almost 20 years. Then they brought him back. Then you had Bucky, and he was gone from the 40s all the way up to 2000s. He was just a flashback character that was accepted to have been removed from the, and then Ed Brubaker, when he was writing Captain America, was like, oh no, this is who the Winter Soldier really is. So whenever a superhero dies in American comics, just know they're gonna come back. You know, don't even like sweat it. Like Wasp died during Secret Invasion, if I remember correctly, and then she came back like what 3, 4 years later. Harry died in what's that? What's that comic? Spectacular Spider-Man 200, right? And then he came back 15 years later when they had that stupid one more day. I'm gonna make a deal with the devil to destroy my marriage trash. It was the same thing with Jean Grey. She was supposed to stay dead after the Dark Phoenix saga, as you know was intended, and then they did this weird retcon, and they brought her back for X Factor, and then they had Scott say, you know what, it's a good idea to go and ditch my wife and baby for my old girlfriend. Yeah, totally makes sense. Fan preferred couple destroys home. You know, nobody cares because the iconic couple is them. So whatever. Oh, he is alive in alternate universes. Yeah. Pretty much out of all the characters that have died, it's him, Gwen, and her dad. They're like the only ones that I think Marvel is not going to be stupid enough to bring back. I don't know. I feel like this Marvel is run by edgy bastards. Like they kill off everybody at some point. Like I remember with Amazing Spider-Man 800, they killed off Flash. Like, what's wrong with you guys? Like they brought him back later, but I was like, this is stupid. They are dead set on just Peter in the comics can never just have friends that live. They always have to everybody. Like you can go through his whole supporting cast, and everyone has died except for like two people, like Jameson, and I think there was a story where it looked like Mary Jane was dead, and then she was hidden in some bunker. So once they get around to everybody at some point. Like I remember one of the original plan for the Clone Saga was to start with Aunt May dying, and then they retconned that by the end of it and said, "Oh, it was an actress that had her memories." Just weird stuff. And then they used her near death state to reverse the what do you call it, the consequences of Civil War with him taking his mask off. Yeah, and it gets really old, man. Like just cut it out. Told you people don't have an original bone in their body. Like I mentioned before that a lot of writers kill somebody off just to be edgy. That's why Gwen died in the first place, because they were edgy, and they were of the belief that you can't just let her go live somewhere else and then he's with Mary Jane. No, you have to get rid of her in this like really dramatic. But I gave them credit because Gary Conway at the time did something that was very new, um, and unpredictable, right? Because it never happened before. So I at least will say that gets a pass because it started them fridging the love interest for the protagonist. But to do it in TASM 2 was really dumb because everybody saw it coming. To where like you dress her in the same outfit that she wears in the whatever. Like it was all just like once it happens in the comics and you want to tell a story that people can't see coming a mile away, to do it in live action doesn't work as well. That's one of the things I like about Gwen in the Raimi series, that they didn't kill her off. Like she wasn't the first love. It was all very surprising that she was in the third one. I don't know. I really like Bryce Dallas Howard. Don't get me wrong, Jedi Master, killing characters can be impactful, but yeah, you gotta be careful with it. I'd rather take one or two major deaths than just five or so mediocre ones. Well, I mean, that's one of the issues I had with Young Justice season 2. It's like you get rid of Kid Flash in a season where he's only in like 6 episodes. Like it's just them being edgy. Same thing with Naruto. Like you get rid of Neji in Shippuden after he's literally done nothing the whole show besides fight a clone of himself. 500 episodes of him doing nothing, and you're gonna get rid of him. It's stupid. Anytime a character dies, it must serve the plot in some way, such as character or story progression. Nah, they just do it to be edgy. Look at Ultimatum, where they killed off everybody except for like 10 heroes because they didn't want to do the Ultimate stories anymore. I think most deaths are just to be edgy in stories. Like most of these like ongoing series, they just kill somebody off to be edgy. Just go, ooh, look at me, I got rid of someone. I mean, you can look at the sequel trilogy. It's like, hey, remember Han Solo, that like very iconic character everybody loves, sometimes even more than the actual people that the series is supposed to be centered on. Oh yeah, let's get rid of him. Let's have him die so we can make his son look just as bad as his grandpa, if not even worse, because Vader didn't kill any family members. Oh, you thought we were gonna do this by making him the villain and fully evil? No, just kidding. He's actually redeemable, because we all know that people that can be redeemed kill their own father, right? That didn't do anything to them. Oh Lord, Naruto and the way they handled the other teams, Shippuden, they had such great characters who had to take a back seat to Naruto and Sasuke love fest. I think Jiraiya and Asuma's death in Naruto were handled, but I hate guys like and like you said, had to take a back seat. Well, again, it was just the fact that you did like Jiraiya in Shippuden doesn't do anything before he dies. He brings Naruto back to the village and he disappears for all of the stuff with Gaara's village and all the rest of that. Then he shows up again to get this mission, and then one last fight, and then gets taken out of the story for the rest of it. So I don't think that was handled good. Same thing with Asuma. Like I can't remember anything he did in that whole series other than fight Itachi with the other main mentors before biting it. So I just feel like when you have a character who you barely use and you get rid of them like that, it doesn't work because I don't know them. And even if we know Jiraiya, it still was after they didn't use him that much or at all. Like that's why it doesn't work for me. And that's why I said it's just them being edgy. So that's like people get mad at Dragon Ball for bringing everybody back, resurrections. But you know what? At least that's Toriyama's way of saying I can still do more with this character. Like he had people begging him not to kill Vegeta during the Frieza saga, which is why he killed Vegeta, like to do what they didn't want him to do. And then he brought him right back because he was like, I can do more stuff with him. I can give him a son from the future. I can have him be like this foil to his like more collected, calm son. You know, that's why Toriyama had the Dragon Ball, so he can always bring somebody back to do more with them if he feels like they can play into his story. At least that's a writer being, and like you can say, oh, Naruto's deaths are permanent, but they have the reanimation jutsu for that reason. When they don't want to have somebody just never be in the story ever again, they use that on them. They have the reanimation jutsu that others, whatever that stuff was that what's her name? Kushina used to meet Naruto. Like they have stuff like that. They know that. Let me see this. I heard that was a good show. League of Legends. Definitely check it out. Oh yeah, it's in my top 10 of 2021. It's not hard to be my top 10 of that year because I didn't even watch anything anyway. Everything's in my top 10 because I don't even see any of this, most of this stuff half the time. Anyhow. But yeah, I understand now why that comment pissed me off as much as it did. Because I guess when you take the time to write a script and you to make all the like main characters have distinct personalities, have some specific role to play in the story, and then you got some bimbo who's like, "Yeah, I know you gave me all these likable protagonists, but I'm rooting for the killer who's not likable and who is immortal to kill everybody because I'm just this like horny weird chick on the internet that doesn't care about a good story." And I realize that's what played a big part into it. I already said before, after part one, Naruto takes a nosedive. It goes. Doo! Let me see. All that Kaguya nonsense after they set up Madara perfectly to be the end villain. Yeah, Madara is one of the best anime villains. Period. Like manga shonen antagonist. And it's really sad that he would have been such a great final antagonist, and you replace him with this floating broad. That's why I've never been into that series as much as these as other people have been, because I really like part one, and it's like a different person wrote part two. Like you set up Orochimaru as the main antagonist. You have him kill the third Hokage, who's like the father to his men. And then what does he do in Shippuden? He gets absorbed by Sasuke, gets taken over from as far as being the main antagonist from like Obito, and just gets completely sidelined for most of the series. Same thing with Itachi. It's like you have him as one of the first people we see from the Akatsuki, and then 2 years later, now he's sick. Now he's dying. When did he get this disease? I mean, what else do you call her? She was over there flying around. Like it was stupid. It's weird too because Naruto doesn't like that series doesn't even have like good female characters anyway. Like that's like most of these shonen series don't even have like really good chicks. So it's like, why would you replace him with her? Like, what are you trying to tell me that White Zetsu is the actual big bad? Like, what in the world is this? Oh man, that great Orochimaru, hands down one of the greatest characters, and yeah, he just gets sidelined. No, Orochimaru was so cool, and they threw him in the trash. Like, it was really sad because I thought when I watched part one for the first time as a kid that part two would be the final like battle, like like main villain battle, right? Naruto versus Orochimaru. He's gonna get payback for third Hokage, and instead they're like, oh, we need to give Naruto someone that he's like relates to. That was their motive for pain, but it's like he already has stuff that he relates to with Orochimaru. Like Orochimaru killed the man that, even though he wasn't as close to Hokage as other people, he still was close to him as they knew each other. That's why I said killing off Jiraiya was just them being edgy. Kishimoto was just lazy and was like, all right, well, I'll make this one villain and, he'll do something that is antagonistic to Naruto. And, then that'll be it. So I really, part two just has a lot of stuff in it that gets on my nerves. I could rewatch part one every year, but part two is just a slog. I already said the anime for Naruto is actually one of the best ones, period, because it's they have like 200 chapters. They condense in like 130 episodes. It was really good, like very little filler. And then even then after there's filler after the final arc of part one, but it's all back to back, so you can just skip it if you don't want to see it. Yeah, it was really sad. They had this great villain. They threw him away for this floating broad and her army of Zetsu clones. I guess that explains why One Piece is highly praised because of the voids amidst if these plot, yeah, most of these plot problems. Well, that's why I said Oda is probably the best one out of these three. Like between him, Kishimoto, and Toriyama, he's probably the one I like the most because he actually like would recognize that there's a character that's really good. So let me use them again. Let me not just kill them off to be edgy, and use them a second time or a third time if I can come up with something interesting. That's why when we got to Marineford and we saw who pass, that was actually shocking. People didn't even believe it because in that series nobody died up until then. Yeah, it is the only one of these shows or series I like more than One Piece is Dragon Ball. It's so like I swear sometimes I read or watch, I'm like, how did it turn into what it turned into? Like I seriously sit there just case studying. I'm like, okay, you get to the Cell Saga, that's when they have more Super Saiyans. They have these other versions of it, but it's still in service of the plot, and like they still have a role to play. it's like it just goes off the rails with the Boo saga. Like that's when like 80% of the issues that bog down that series really start kicking in. Well, yeah, because Oda's not an edgy bastard. Listen, if you have an ongoing series where you know you're going to have however many arcs, however many movies, killing off a character usually is a bad idea. Most of the time, it doesn't work, and it's just a thing to look like to make something seem like it has weight. That's why a lot of early superhero movies only killed off the villain because they thought the only way to have a story that has weight is for the villain to die. A live action DBZ. Well, you're going to be on an island with that one, my friend. I saw Dragon Ball Evolution and I vomited. So you can have that. Like a lot of people trash superhero comics even they don't read them. But you know that was one of the reasons that the original Lee Ditko run of Spider-Man was brilliant. Like you had a different, unique, sympathetic, usually villain with each issue, and sometimes and more often than not, none of them die, so they can use them again and do something interesting with them. Like same thing, just like with Joker, where he was supposed to die in Batman #1 because the edgy writer at the time was like, I don't think Batman should have recurring villains, and they kept him around, and now he's one of the most iconic antagonists in all of fiction. Not because of Batman #1, because of Killing Joke, Death in the Family, where he kills off, Jason Todd. Like there, so much of the influence of that character comes from him being allowed to live and be in further subsequent stories. You can give me. I'll take 10 more animated Dragon Ball movies before we get one more live action one. I'm sorry. Evolution was awful. It was garbage. I'm not interested in seeing that again. So live action can stay to itself. I swear, every time I do one of these streams, somebody's like, people turn into damn billboards for other series. They're like, go watch this, go read this. I'm just gonna, every time I do a stream, I'm just gonna have like a little sign that says, "Go read Uncanny X-Men" or something. Just, I feel like they shouldn't make live action anime movies or yeah, I'm not a fan of those either. I don't know why they bother. Like you look at the last Airbender movie, it's just a crappier abridged version of the first season. That's all it is. It's just a crappy abridged version of the first season. At least they do an animated movie. Usually it's a new story, some you haven't seen before. So it's just like when they remake stuff. Like I've never seen a remake that people say is better than the original. You know, it's really sad that people are the way they are. But yeah, Oda's the only one of these manga writers that actually like tries to do long run. And it's so dumb because all of these guys know they want to do these long running series, but they kill off the villain after one arc or a season, whatever. It's so stupid. He's the only one where it's like a person who actually thinks in advance. Hey, look at how deranged I am. Uh Envoy, I'm rooting for Crocodile. I want him to purge Alabasta's water and make people think the king is evil and wants to kill all of them. It's no, I'm rooting for Cell. I want him to blow up Earth. Oh, why? Because people on Earth did something to him. No, I'm just an edgy bastard. It's really interesting too, because Jiro's actually one of them, and I hate that they killed him off. He's one of the more interesting Dragon Ball villains in terms of like personality, because he wants revenge on Goku for destroying the Red Ribbon Army. Um, and it really sucks that they don't really explore like his motivations, before they get rid of him. We can find out if Goku accidentally killed somebody that he cared about. You know, again, just stuff like that makes the villain more because you got to wonder if 19 and 20 beat the I guess the Z fighters, if you want to call them that. Do you? I don't think they would just go around terrorizing the planet like 17 and 18 did in the alternate timeline from future Trunks. Because their whole thing is that by the time they came out, Goku was already dead, so the mission was accomplished. Um, so stuff like that is what was what I find interesting. Like, would this just be another mustache twirling villain, or would they would just be like a regular? That's why out of all the forms of Boo, my favorite one is the fat one, because he actually isn't just evil to be evil. He has like a very unique personality in terms of like the other two are just you know one gloats and the other one just destroys stuff. So they're much less interesting characters to me than the original Boo, or I guess the first one we're introduced to. But yeah, most of the time when they kill off characters, especially in manga, it's just to be edgy. I'm still mad at Toriyama. That was so stupid. I'm good. Let's take Boo out of the tournament after putting them on the poster and make Frieza the last person. They spent a whole series just denying any type of stuff for Boo. It was really pathetic. But whatever. I'm just so tired of these writers, man. They don't know what they're doing. They're just weird. It is funny to go on like one of those Dragon Ball forums. They're like, we don't want recurring villains. This isn't like Marvel or DC, even though we've had Frieza like 5 times, but we can't have Cell a second time. My favorite thing is when their own series like contradicts them. Like when they say, "Oh, the humans can't catch up to the Saiyans. That's why in the epilogue of the manga that we claim to love so damn much, a human is able to fight Goku." I told you, anyone that still believes in power levels or any of that trash, just get out of my face. Power levels are just a dumb way of people making sense of stuff that already like doesn't even add up. Like if power levels actually mattered, especially after the Saiyan saga, Vegeta would have been able to beat Goku. Raditz definitely would have been able to beat Goku, and they still lost. So I don't. It's just a little. That's why Toriyama got rid of the Scouters after Frieza after that arc, because he knew that it's just a dumb way of like putting limits on yourself. Pretty much, if you're dealing with like one of the main protagonists and Toriyama doesn't want them to die, he'll come up with some kind of plot convenient reason for them not to get killed. Because Frieza could have just shown up, made a death ball, and just killed everybody. So they, he doesn't do that because I want to make you suffer slowly. It's just it's really sad that people actually sit here analyzing who was stronger. Like, yeah, come on. Whoever is stronger depends on whoever the writer feels like making strong. It's just like what Stan Lee said about Thor versus Hulk, who would win. He said whoever the writer is. The writer likes Hulk more to make him win. If the writer likes Thor more to make him win. Yeah, power levels are a joke. People run whole channels like this person's power level was this, and I'm like, what? I told you they don't even care. They just say whatever. Anyways, I'm gonna get off of here. We've been doing this for the usual two. Um, I guess have a good day. It's really sad that people are the way they are. They're just opposed to everything. They say stuff that is anti something, but can't come up with a good reason for why they like it or dislike it. And my patience wears thin because I value my time, right? And if I'm speaking to someone who has a different opinion and they can't explain or articulate why they believe that, in terms that I think makes sense, especially over like stuff like this, just where you actively try to write something or make it make sense to you, or you can always explain why you like or dislike something. It's just really annoying. So whatever. Thanks for watching, and I'm rooting for the person that is immortal and evil for no reason. That's who I'm most concerned about and care about. Stupid bimbo.